In a landscape fraught with tension, President Donald Trump has initiated very serious discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin, aiming to find a resolution to the ongoing Russian-Ukraine conflict. This move reflects Trump's assertive approach to foreign policy, as he claims the conflict would not have escalated under his leadership. Trump's assertions combine political ambition with a desire to reshape US-Russia relations. With millions of lives affected, the global economy at stake, the stakes are high. Can Trump's engagement with Putin truly pave the way for peace, or will it merely serve as another chapter in a long-standing geopolitical struggle? Welcome to Think Tank. For peace talks between Russia and Ukraine to succeed, both sides must make tough concessions. While Ukraine has shown openness, Russia maintains difficult demands, including limiting Ukraine's ties to the West and the removal of sanctions. According to Washington Examiner, to shift Russia's stance, President Trump must leverage economic pressure on Putin, especially by imposing secondary sanctions on countries like China, India and other countries that continue supporting Russian exports. Trump's threat to sanction these nations could cripple Russia's economy, pushing Putin towards negotiations. By replicating previous sanctions on Russian pipelines and targeting energy exports, Trump has a historic opportunity to bring about peace, ensuring Ukraine's sovereignty and ending the war. He must act decisively to show Putin that continued resistance will lead to economic collapse and diplomatic isolation. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, on the other side, has warned that excluding Kiev from negotiations between the United States and Russia about ending the war would send a message. Politico stated that Zelensky stressed that discussing Ukraine's future without its involvement would empower Russian President Vladimir Putin. He emphasized that peace must come through strength, with Ukraine, the United States and Russia at the negotiating table. Alongside European Union voices, Zelensky is pushing for direct talks with US officials and insists any peace deal should not be made behind Ukraine's back. Meanwhile, the United States officials, including Senator Marco Rubio, suggests that compromises from both Ukraine and Russia are needed to end this conflict.
Any concerns that your commentary about
President Donald Trump recently asserted that his administration is engaged in very serious discussions with Russia regarding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. He expressed optimism about potentially taking significant steps to end the war.
Perhaps do something that'll be significant. We want to end that war. That war would have never started if I was president, and we want to end that war. That war is a horrible war. Millions of young people are being killed.
This sentiment reflects Trump's long-standing claim that he could have prevented the conflict during his previous term. Trump did not provide details on who from his administration has been in contact with Russian officials, but emphasized that discussions are already underway. When asked if he has spoken directly with President Vladimir Putin, he was non-committal. His remarks come as he criticized the previous Biden administration for its substantial military and economic support to Ukraine, which he argues prolonged the war. Putin has responded to Trump's overtures, describing him as a clever and pragmatic man, and suggesting that the war might have been avoided had Trump remained in office during the initial escalation. This mutual acknowledgement raises questions about the potential for a diplomatic breakthrough. Despite these discussions, skepticism remains about the feasibility of Trump's assertions. Critics point out that tensions in Ukraine had already been escalating before his administration resumed office, leading up to the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The dynamics of US-Russia relations continue to evolve, and whether Trump's approach can lead to a resolution remains uncertain.
Amid the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war, President Trump's recent talks with Vladimir Putin has sparked both hope and skepticism. As he asserts progress is possible, we explore what drives his engagement with Russia and how it could affect US-Russia relations and the situation in Ukraine. Can these discussions lead to resolution, or are they just a reflection of deeper geopolitical tensions? And for more analysis, joining us is Frank Mosmar, an international relations professor from Texas. And we're also joined by Ammar Khanna, a political science professor from Moscow. A very warm welcome to both our guests. And we start off with Professor Mosmar. What do you think are Trump's main motivations for engaging in talks with Putin about Ukraine, sir?
Okay, the question is mine or the guest?
Professor Mosmar?
The question is mine?
Yes, sir. What do you think are Trump's main motivations from engaging in talks with Putin about Ukraine, sir?
Okay, well, it's needed. First of all, it was one of his, campaign promises, and second, it's needed at the global arena. Russia cannot stay out of the geopolitical market, the energy market. And it's better for the United States to find sort of concession with Russia, just to avoid Russia keep getting closer to China. The biggest issue for the new administration concerning the economy, concerning like global influence is China. So it's better for the United States to start closing all the open files so they can concentrate on China later on.
Okay, Professor Khanna, how do you assess the current state of US-Russia relations in light of these discussions, sir?
تحياتي للجميع.
To you and everyone. In my opinion, the level of relations between Washington and Moscow is in the lowest state historically. We're now facing a geopolitical conflict that is complicated with the transition of power in the US from a democratic to a republican regime, with an intention or desire to reach a political solution or political settlement in Ukraine, but we cannot see any clear indicators or schemes or plans that can be beneficial or strategic to end the conflict in Ukraine. And secondly, going back to normal, usual relations between the United States of America and Russia, which means one of the most serious through. We're now facing the threatening peace and security concepts due to the tensions in the Washington-Moscow relations. So far, the dialogues has not led to nowhere. Even this political dialogue that has been promised for more than 1 year, but so far we have not seen anything positive on the ground. We can say that these hopes came in the way of the promises of Trump during his election campaign are now facing the reality, which it's not about Trump or Biden when it comes to Ukraine. It is the main goal of the United States and the security system, as well as the Russian national security system. That's why the low level of relations today, that we hopeful that we see substantial solutions to settle the relations between Russia and America and reaching a settlement for the international system.
Perfect, sir. Professor Musmar, how might Trump's approach be different from previous US administrations in dealing with Russia, of course, in light of Trump's claims when he was in his campaign, of course, when he said, "I'll end this war in 24 hours"?
Okay, well, at the beginning of this war, I said this war is not going to end off like a winner at the ground. It's going to be a negotiation table. That's what I said from the beginning. And I said something else. I said the victim of this war is Europe. So basically, there is a difference between the diplomatic election speech and the actual.
Sir, which country specifically in Europe are you targeting or are you discussing in your context, sir?
Okay, well, yeah, if you allow me to explain. So basically, there is a big difference between political election speech and there is an actual agreement that happens on the ground. This subject is very just, being expressed over, the news and media outlets. The dimensions started like, number one, as an example, the dimension of NATO. Second, the economical dimension for Europe in between Russia and the United States. The gas market, how it's going to be split. We know, like from the beginning, Trump was against the German pipe, and now the United States trying to explore their energy. So who's going to split that market? How are they going to split that market? We know Russia has more market in Asia. United States maybe will take the biggest piece of cake from Europe for that market. The Greenland and the influence of that North line that Russia and China start to get interested in it. So the negotiation is not going to be over like the subject of just finishing the war. They're going to discuss many other things that is going to happen after that. What's going to happen to Ukraine from the umbrella of the economy, rebuilding, restructuring? Is it going to be part of the European Union, as an example? How far or how long can Ukraine wait before maybe apply for a NATO membership or maybe future in alignment somehow with the West? Will Russia market and economy and oil business is going to be all the way away from the influence of the economical market? How is that going to affect the energy prices and the relationship between China and the United States? Which is better to the United States, to align China and Russia together, or gain Russia back again somehow in a geopolitical, diplomatic, economical deal away from China? Because the main influence now, it's the business, the market, more than just the political dry arena that, we're going to say, we're going to do this and that. There is like a composition of many factors that works together.
Okay, Professor Khanna, how have other countries, like European countries, sir, reacted to Trump's discussions with Putin? And are there any notable responses?
Regarding the EU system, we have seen for a long time there is a lot of contradictions in how to handle Russia in the light of the current crisis. Today, the European elites are concerned and fear the Trump administration and what he intends to do regarding the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. We have seen a lot of tensions in the European inside, and I mean Eastern Europe, Western Europe, sorry, and the economy crisis, the energy crisis, and the most important issue, which is the social political level. There is the right wing is escalating and polarizing more than ever before. And for the previous experiences and expertise that we have seen the European giving in to the US decisions, And especially when it comes to the security equation, there is a lot of strategic mistakes committed by Europe and the European Union, and today they are facing a dilemma of how to get out of this conflict. In my opinion, there is a desire to end this conflict because it has been very costly, and Ukraine is now a burden to Europe. But also getting out with a common desire with the United States is the well at the moment. But Trump is going with the US individually to accomplish a certain achievement or a political settlement in Ukraine, which inevitably will be on the account of Ukraine and the European system as well. We have listened a couple of days ago that there will be a new war with the European Union, increasing the tariffs in the middle of the economic situation that the European region is going through. So these contradictions and tensions is evident today between the political European elites. But in reality, there must be unified strategy or kind of support by Russia in the field of
Sir,
energy.
I'll be back again. I'll leave you. I'll leave you there, and I'll be back again to you, sir. Professor Musmar, what specific outcomes could Trump realistically achieve through these negotiations? And I mean by these negotiations, sir, clearly and out loud, Russia, Ukraine, and on top of all, the United States, which is the main negotiator between both.
Well, some conditions from Russia to freeze the situation on the ground. They will accept Russia's condition to restrict Ukraine from NATO for 20 years. They will stop or somehow slow down the amount of support, money, financial support, or even military support to Ukraine. Now this is maybe basics, but the biggest picture is way bigger than that, which is the energy market. The energy market is the most important thing. And if you remember, Trump in his first administration, he was way against increasing the sale of gas from Russia to Europe. And now we know how desperate the European Union for the energy market. And the prices influence and how it's going to influence its economy. Number two, the NATO and the new conditions from the Trump administration on the NATO members to increase expenditures from their GDP to increase it to 4 or 5%. Number three is the new conditions, how the United States Army will respond to the umbrella of NATO and how they're going to be persistent or existed in Europe, like with soldiers in the ground or just, air defenses and stuff. Number three, which is Greenland, which is very important. And that's why Donald Trump, he started talking about it. It's not out of, nowhere. Donald Trump knows that it's going to be coming later on as one of the point of discussions with Russia. So it's the influence of Russia and United States over Europe, and that will most likely end to sort of agreements over a negotiation table. It is going to be split somehow at the percentage that each one will maybe consist. And
Professor Ammar, may I please interrupt you here to ask you a question? It wasn't the United States under the Biden administration the main ally of Ukraine. What happened suddenly and turning tables is happening now, and there's no image. We cannot understand what's going on exactly. All we know well, all I know well, is that the United States, Donald Trump does not want war and he wants peace. Okay, I understand, but there's a win-win situation in this case with Russia at this point. Wrong or right, sir?
Regarding the U.S. View on this, we need to determine what the U.S. actually wants. What did Biden want, and what does Trump want of the current status in Ukraine? At first, the Biden administration. A lot of people went over him, including Trump, and which caused the Russian strategic defeat in Ukraine. And now Trump wants to turn to the political settlement and stopping the war, but on what basis? He is building all of the findings on unclear basis. What has been leaked to the press that is close to Trump, that his plan is based on freezing this conflict. And for Moscow, it does not coincide with the current vision of Russia. Russia wants to end this fundamental crisis at all cases. The guarantees Russia requested were not guarantees from Ukraine, were guarantees from the United States and from Europe, and they have been ignored, which led to the military ongoing conflict in Ukraine. So now, today, we are talking about any peaceful process that will lead on to serving the best interests of Russia and Ukraine. But the scene today is complicated through the Biden policies, and we have seen the world dividing into two masses: the West and the East, and there is support for the NATO rule, and today we see new aspirations for the United States, which is monopolizing the energy markets, especially the gas markets. So today the equation is not only geopolitical but also geo-economic. What I cannot see clearly is the strategic vision of the United States represented
exactly,
in Biden,
sir. This is my question. We
Trump.
wanted to know. I just wanted to know, where does the United States stand from all that's happening? Professor Musmar, could you please express how does Zelensky perceive the role of the European Union in peace negotiations? And please answer the question that I asked. If you heard, if you did not, I can repeat again about the United States and Russia and Ukraine, and about the United States being the main ally of Ukraine, in this war that took place for the past 2 years and a half, and it's taking place still, sir. And what does the United States today, under the leadership of Donald Trump, await from all that's taking place?
Well, okay. Now, if you allow me, just to highlight a few things here. Okay, when we're talking about the politics of the United States, it's it beside the point, being Democrats or Republicans. It's for the strategical interest of the United States. Maybe sometimes the applications of the interests of the United States vary or looks different, to the like regular person. But in reality, the strategical interests of the United States, being Republicans or Democrats, are applied at the global arena. Now, once this war started, it basically was not with Ukraine. It was between the NATO and the NATO expansion and the hemisphere of NATO and Russia. Now, if we want to add the most important thing to this table, which is the war nowadays, in our lifetime, it changed from a classic war at the ground into an economical economical influence at the global arena. And basically, I said from day one, this war is not gonna have a winner. You cannot have a winner between the two nuclear strongholds like Russia and the United States. We're gonna destroy the world if we go into the point of looking for a winner. True. So the idea is what this part wants, what part wants. So the United States, it has its influence in Europe. Of course, it's reached all the way now, without being Ukraine, without being a NATO, but, they stretch all the way there. Now, of course, Russia is not going to accept that. But in the meantime, if you look and you go for the strategical influence, and the economical side effects out of this war, the one that paid the price for it was the European Union, and they're going to still be paying for it. So now we could tell like there is different dimensions for this war. It's not just like, what Ukraine wants, what the United States wants. Number one, what concession we could do between those two superpowers. Because at the end, we cannot just go with what Zelensky wants.
Sir, you mean by the superpowers, Russia and the United States?
Russia and the United States, yes, they are the main player of this game. Now,
sir, is this a win-win situation game?
We apply an economic solution for this war is going to be a win-win game, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir, very much for your intake, and I very much appreciate. That was Frank Mosmar, an international relations professor, and Ammar Kana, a political science professor from Moscow. Thanks for your valuable, informative, intellectual insights. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Think Tank. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on QNews.